us in the
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Tonight's roll call. Barnwell.
Here.
DeMoss.
Here.
Calhoun.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
Finch.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Mayor McClure.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have now citizen comments on any subject except those items scheduled for a public hearing. We don't have any public hearings tonight. People who have signed in by the door will be given the first opportunity to speak in order. And the time is limited to 3 minutes and 36 minutes total for this section. If you haven't signed in, don't worry. You can raise your hand and you'll get a chance. There are some instructions posted about speaking, and I just want to point out there's a table there with a chair and a microphone, and that's where you would speak from. And what we need from you when you come up is your name and whether you live inside or outside the city limits. That's for the record, okay? Madam Clerk, who signed up?
The first person signed is Carolyn Romer.
Okay.
I have notes.
It's okay.
Dear Council, Mayor McClure.
Excuse me, we need your name, and if you're inside or outside the city limits.
My name is Carolyn Romer. I live outside city limits. I'm coming tonight before you as a 30-year resident who raised her family here and plan to spend the rest of my life here. I am deeply concerned about this proposed sale of the Seward Electric Service. I respect the hard work all of you do, and I know how many hours I have spent in the past 3 weeks researching this topic. If I had a job, a business, a family, I could not have spent the time I have. I know you must rely on the experts to guide you. I know you must trust the people you hire to advise you. Our whole system is very cumbersome, and it is very hard to administer a multi-million-dollar utility the way it is set up. I get that. The choice of HEA was guided by those you hired, some who will not live with the consequences of this sale. You and we were told the base electric rate could increase by up to 50% if the utility is not sold, yet HEA's base rate right now is 60% higher than ours. 60%. The infrastructure and upgrades will be included in the rate study and rate hikes of this summer. Those upgrades will be paid for. There is very little work left to complete the upgrade of our system-wide transmission capability from 69 kilovolts to 115 kilovolts, an upgrade that puts us placed to supply power for the cruise industry. But you have omitted that from the current version of this contract. Seward nominal load is 8 to 10 megawatts per hour. The cruise ships will want 20 to 30 megawatts per hour when they're tied up. That business can be worth millions to this community, millions that will leave if the sale is approved, millions of dollars Seward will not see. Our infrastructure is not space-age compatible. We cannot put apps on people's phones, but we have a solid utility that is in good repair. We have generators, state-of-the-art generators with low hours, capable of 15.6 megawatts, capable of supplying the community and the needs in case of a line failure. We have 49 miles of high transmission lines to Dave's Creek subdivision in excellent condition. I have learned HEA does not plan to staff an on-call position to start our generators if there is a need. You are asking citizens to vote yes or no on a contract you are still negotiating. The decision to sell and the company you chose still confounds me. The value you are accepting, $25 million plus $1.1 million for 10 years, is a very low figure for the infrastructure and for the business. The fact that millions from the sale of power to the cruise lines will leave if this vote passes instead of benefiting our community is irresponsible. Does something need to change? Obviously. But I believe the sale is not in our town's best interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, who's next?
Madam Mayor, next is W.C. Casey.
We still need your name, even though we know you.
W.C. Casey, Seward resident, living outside the city of Seward temporarily. As an employee of the city of Seward for a number of years, 37 and a half to be exact, having sat through numerous budget processes, having managed 4 funds, enterprise funds for the city of Seward, having observed numerous budget sessions involving the electric department, I think this is one of the worst ideas I've heard of in a long time in regards to selling this city's electric department. I think that'd be a huge mistake. I'm opposed to it, and I hope people speak up, get educated, and make smart decisions in that regard, because the electric department has been a vital enterprise fund for the city of Seward. Thank you for your attention, Madam Mayor and council members.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next signed in is Trent LaFleur.
Hi everyone, my name is Trent LaFleur. I live inside city limits. I came to Seward as a kayak guide. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life, and I ended up owning and operating Kayak Adventures. I have 20 staff that I take care of with my wife, Hannah LaFleur, and this past year we had the opportunity to work with the SBDC, Kellyanne, who's sitting behind me here, and Cliff as well, and they helped us navigate some really scary waters for us. We were looking for financing for a building we didn't know if we could finance. We were looking for contractors and architects and all sorts of stuff. And both of them, but specifically Kellyanne, was behind us the entire way. I can't speak enough about the importance of her being here in the town of Seward. I truly believe that Seward is this incredible place where if you build it, they will come. But I know as a young man coming to Seward with no business background, I did terribly in my small business management course. Don't tell anyone, it might be obvious at times. Kellyanne really helped support me and really made things that were really challenging and scary. She made them easy and approachable. I think that we need someone like Kellyanne here because there will continue to be young people who show up who want to be surf guides and start their own businesses, who want to own restaurants. And having Kellyanne here to help those people navigate what can be really scary and intimidating is really important. I just wanted to share with the council how grateful we were to work with her. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next signed in is Hannah LaFleur.
Hannah LaFleur, inside city limits. I am also here to speak on behalf or in support of the SBDC and Kellyanne as well as Cliff. Just wanted to express my gratitude as a small business owner here in Seward and someone who is well connected in the small business community. It's very obvious the benefit that Seward has from having an SBDC advisor here in Seward. Being able to meet in person, being able to have emails and phone calls answered, get consultations about financial advice. For us, as Trent mentioned, we were trying to secure a construction loan, and the whole process was made so much smoother and easier because of the SBDC. And I just wanted to express my support for what they're up to and for Kellyanne's role in our building process. We just finished up construction of a new building here in downtown Seward, and are really excited to be using it this season and for many to come. So, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next signed in is Tim McDonald.
Tim McDonald, inside city limits, 50-year resident. First off, I do not concede what I believe is a constitutional free speech issue of the podium versus the chair. That was an 80-year tradition that was changed arbitrarily with zero public input, when you're usually so scrupulous about that. So I object, and we'll bring that up at another time. Right now, there's more important things. The sale of the utility, I mean, it all ties together. You know, can we learn from the mistakes of the past so that we don't do it again in the future? Net metering was the law of the land 25 years ago approximately, and the city squashed it. It's, for whatever reason, our local Avtech had a big windmill out there, and it went for about a week, and then, you know, oh, they don't have parts or something like that. If that thing broke down and that's the reason they didn't run it, I'll eat my shoes, because you don't put that much money in something and fix it just because it breaks. So the city squashed it under some technicality. What if they had enough? What if they had supported it and says, oh, all right, let's go all in on this. Let's take a risk. Maybe it'll document, you know, bankrupt the utility, but let's look at the future. If net metering, not you guys, I realize none of you were even close to this place back then, but if they had done that back then, you know, we would probably be self-sufficient on renewable energies right now. If that windmill had been allowed to run at Avtech, we'd probably have been running a course for the last 15 years in renewable technicians. We could have been a leader in it, you know. And now with this, we're going to talk for 5 minutes at the end of this about it, but selling the utility out from under us doesn't give us any options. We're part of a bigger pie then, we have a smaller voice. I believe Ms. Testamarata, I believe that's her name, wrote a letter in the paper about this, and it is judicious to wait until we learn more. Originally, we were supposed to get a bid from Chugach, then they got sidelined through, you know, executive sessions. So we're not getting the deal that it started out with, and we're not sure if it's the right one, and we got to live with it for a long time. So no on the sale.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk?
Next signed in is Kat Sorensen.
Hi, my name is Kat Sorensen, and I live inside city limits. I'm also the executive director of the Seward Chamber of Commerce, and we fund the other portion of the Alaska Small Business Development Center's business advisor position in Seward. We also house a business advisor in our office, which is a really great opportunity for us to see many of the people that come through the business advisor Kellyanne stores. And I just wanted to speak first before Cliff talks. I'm really excited for his presentation. I haven't seen it yet, but the funds for this, the $25,000, we put that from our membership budget, and it's a pretty big expenditure for our small or chamber budget, but we see such a strong return on investment throughout the business community and the chamber itself that it really is worthwhile across the board. The SBDC has a lot of resources and a strong amount of them at their disposal at all times, and they have the people on hand to use them as well and showcase those to the people who come through the door. So I'm mostly here tonight to listen to Cliff's presentation, but I wanted to take a brief moment at the start to highlight how strong of an impact that we've seen from the SBDC in our office and our membership and in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Next signed in is Laura Erickson.
I'm on the agenda, so.
Oh, right, thank you. The next is Carrie Ann Baker.
Hi, Carrie Ann Baker, and I am not a resident of the city. I actually work for Homer Electric, and I just wanted to come and thank the city, thank Madam Mayor and the council members for the opportunity that I've had these past couple months to get to spend time in your city. This has just been a wonderful experience for us, and one thing that my boss said when we came into this process was he wanted the city and the city residents and even those outside the city to be able to ask any questions they wanted to. And if anybody knows anything about my boss, he wants to be in person. He wants you to be able to look him in the eye and ask those questions. And so that's something that we came into this process knowing that we wanted to provide. We wanted to be around, we wanted to be visible, and we wanted anybody to ask us anything they wanted to. By my count, we've had about 25 public meetings. We've met with the Legion, we've met with the Rotary, we've met with the Chamber. We've shown up anywhere at any time, and we've answered any question that's been put to us. But it's got to be a win-win for both of us. I believe everything I'm doing, that this is the right thing for AGA. I believe it's probably the right thing for Seward, but you know what? I'm not a voter. That's up to the voters to decide. What I can control is I can be here, I can answer questions, and I can be available for anybody that has those questions. So I'm pretty proud to work for AGA. It's no secret. I wake up pretty early in the morning, I jump out of the bed, and I love what I'm doing. But I found something else that I really enjoyed, which is your guys' town. There's something really special about this town. Honestly, there's something really special about your electric utility. Your employees are fantastic. They're hardworking. They care about what they're doing. They're proud of what they're doing. They're everything that we would like to see in a utility that would join with us. I hope the city residents feel the same, but if they don't, that's okay. It's got to be a win-win. We just want the city and the residents to make an educated decision, and we wanted it to be a two-way street, not a one-way street. So we'll be around through the end of the week. My telephone number is 907-435-7734. We're happy to show up. We're happy to give presentations. I really don't like giving presentations, but we will. But we're happy to answer questions. So give us a call, and we'll be there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, last signed in is David Foote.
Hello, I'm David Foote and resident outside of the city limits. I've been a lineman here for almost 8 years now. I've been a lineman for over 30 years. So with the question that was posed a while back was, who's the expert? What makes you the expert of the infrastructure? I guess that's because the four of us, including the two extra operators, we've done this work for years, accumulating over 100 years of knowledge between the group of us. Yes, the vote is going to be up to the people now. There's really not much more you can do to change anybody's mind. But if it does come down to where it's voted down and we're still our own utility, we need your cooperation. You need to come off of some of this power that you want to hang on to and let Rob run it like a real business. Not some little ma and pa shop where you can dip in and grab money out of our account whenever they want. Because when I came here 8 years ago, there was $18 million in that account. What happened to it? How come it's down to $7 million now? That's the point. People have used it as a slush fund. Reaching your hand in and grabbing it whenever you want. In fact, when the idea of even selling the utility is, everybody came up with all these great ideas. We're going to build this, we're going to build that. But finally, you realize that if you do that, it's gone. Just like if you sell this, it's gone. And all this money and time and blood and sweat that we've all put into this will be gone to another company. And yeah, I think Homer will do a pretty good job with it. But look what we have done in the last, say, about 10 years now. From what I understand before, we had a lot of outages here. It was continuous. This last year, the two biggest outages we had was because of birds. Knocked the whole town out. We've cut down the trees that have been interfering with the lines. We still got some to go, but we have been very busy and diligent to get this stuff done. We make sure that we check everything and check it again for everybody, because we live here too. You know, it's not like we're just driving around for the fun of it. we're looking at the line. The other day, there was a cutout over here, a fuse holder, that would have took all the low point out again. We just fixed it because we've seen it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, that was all?
That's all that signed in.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Just raise your hand and I'll call you up.
Linda Paquette, outside city limits, but also a PACAP commissioner. So you have in your packet and on the consent agenda, ordinance 2023-014, which is a tweak to the language for the Port and Commerce Board. And what's also in the packet is the attorney recommendations. And it was a little confusing because we approved this, and then the attorney looked at what we approved and made suggested changes. So when it comes back, I don't think you'll take it off consent, but if you do, I'm going to stay. If you don't, then we'll talk about it at the next meeting. But I just wanted to be here and say, you know, I am here as vice chair if you do have any questions.
Thank you very much. Any other people wanting to speak? Linda, could you look, is there anyone in the hall? I don't expect, since there are empty chairs, but we've had people in the halls in the past. Okay. Does anyone else want to speak? This is your last chance until at the end of the meeting. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the citizen comment portion, and that moves us to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda, and I would ask for a motion and a second to approve.
I'll move to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I have one thing I would like to suggest as a change. I'd move to put resolution 2023-049 on the consent agenda, unless there's an objection.
I'd like to leave it off
Okay.
to discuss it.
Okay, then that will not go on the consent agenda. Are there any other changes? Give you a second here. Okay, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to go.
Okay, voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. DeMoss?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and approved on tonight's consent agenda are the approval of the March 28th, 2023 City Council special meeting minutes, the March 28th, 2023 City Council regular meeting minutes, the April 6th, 2023 City Council special meeting minutes, and the April 10th, 2023 City Council regular meeting minutes. You have introduced ordinance 2023-010, amending Seward City Code Title 9, Health and Safety for the City of Seward recodification project. This ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on May 8th, 2023. You have introduced ordinance 2023-011, amending Seward City Code Title 10, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare for the City of Seward recodification project. This ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on May 8th. You have introduced ordinance 2023-012, amending Seward City Code Title 3, Personnel. This ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on May 8th. And you have introduced ordinance 2023-013, enacting Seward City Code Section 3.50.040, floating holiday. This ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on May 8th. And last, you have introduced ordinance 2023-014, amending Seward City Code Chapter 2.30, boards and commissions, and this ordinance will come for public hearing and enactment on May 8th. You have approved Resolution 2023-045, appointing Harbor Master Norm Regis as acting city manager for up to 6 months, beginning May 11, 2023, with the option to extend as necessary. Resolution 2023-047, authorizing the city manager to purchase an HLA hydraulic wing blade loader attachment in the amount of $21,150 plus 10% contingency of $2,115 from Construction Machinery Industrial LLC and appropriating funds. You have approved Resolution 2023-048, authorizing the city manager to approve the purchase of a backup pump replacement with DXP Alaska Pump and Supply Incorporated for the town wastewater lift station number 1 in an amount not to exceed $57,887.50 and appropriating funds. You have no objection to the transfer and renewal of the liquor license number 3230 Restaurant Eating Place and the approval of the restaurant designation permit for Apollo Restaurant. And you have appointed Laura Erickson to the Historic Preservation Commission with a term to expire May 2025.
We did a lot. Thank you. That's always exciting to hear that list. And if you want to, those are all in the package. You can read about them. That whole list, I might mention what it means, introduction of ordinances. That just means they're now out there so people can read about them, and we will have public hearings on them at the next meeting. So, okay, that brings us now to proclamations and awards, which we actually don't have any of tonight, and so therefore we are at the city manager report. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the packet, I referenced the Washington DC delegation trip, and I thought I would give a really high-level overview along with Norm Regis, the harbor master, and the honorable vice mayor. There's a joke there. And about our activities. So it was an intense couple of days with meetings, but I feel very positive about our activities and the meetings that we had. And I would ask that those two step in any time with these comments. But our first meeting was with the U.S. Coast Guard, and it was a very different conversation than it was a year ago. At that time, a year ago, Senator Sullivan asked that we speak about the icebreaker, and it was not as well met as it was this year, and I really felt that the Coast Guard provided us with a lot of information. First, I'll start with the icebreaker. So it's interesting, with the icebreaker, last year there was the home porting study that involved Seward, and it was for the placement of a commercial icebreaker that would have been purchased by the Coast Guard. Seward was not chosen. Actually, Juneau was chosen because they own land, they being the Coast Guard, own land in Juneau, so it fit well for them. However, the funding was pulled for the commercial icebreaker, so actually there's not one being purchased, at least not at this time. However, there are 3 Arctic security cutters that are going to be funded. Put it that way. And those 3, first of all, backing up, there are 2, I'm going to say heavy cutters, full-size cutters. There's a much more technical term, but that are being built, and those 2 are anticipated that they will go to Seattle and not up to Alaska. So the next 3 are the medium-sized cutters, which are the Arctic security cutters, and it is Senator Sullivan's, all of our desire that those come to Alaska. And one, of course, we're advocating right here in Seward. And so we spoke of that. It is, we were in the home port, like I stated, in the home porting study. We did not meet the criteria of the home porting study for the commercial icebreaker. However, they will do another study and much more in depth for this next round. When I say next round, it could be 8 to 10 years before it actually would come to Seward. But they do plan to look extensively at Alaska for those 3. And then there's some others that are going to be built as well. So that was a very positive conversation. And, they talked about some of the criteria that, really knocked Seward out of the running, so to speak, and it had to do with housing and healthcare, both of which, is expanding. So that's a good thing. Also, we spoke about the fast response cutter, and that is coming to Seward. It's $42 million. And expected appropriation of funds in FY24, I should say funds are in the FY24 budget, with completion of the vessel in 2028. They are calling it Hull 60, but we've already been informed that it's the Frederick Mann that will be home ported here in Seward. Also, we spoke about the housing project. The U.S. Coast Guard was allocated $13.5 million for housing. They did say they're about a year behind in their housing. They have to have housing in place before the cutter can come here, but they are about a year behind, but they're quickly catching up. They have some land that they have tentatively identified here in Seward, and we'll continue the conversations with the city. It's city-owned land, and at this time, we don't have anything to bring before you for approval or anything, but at some point, it will come before you. They expect full land acquisition in 2024, and hopefully they will be able to start at least speaking about it soon, so that we can get that moving along. And then our next meeting, sorry, my thing is not working right, was with, I'm looking at you guys, my thing is now, okay, was with the Army Corps of Engineers, and Stephen Kopecki was who we met with. And as you saw in the last presentation from Jathan, the project manager for the tunnel project, there's an appropriation of $185 million for that project. They're at 35% design, and right now the construction, or at least the estimated actual amount, will be $223 million. So there is a cost overrun. We did speak about that, and it's interesting how they build their budget, but part of building the budget is there is a 40% contingency, and they front load a lot of engineering funds in it, knowing those funds will come down. So they're pretty comfortable that they'll actually be within budget, or at least pretty close, and that there will be an appropriation. It is an existing budgeted project, so cost overruns and the appropriation for those funds are normal, I should say, normal. So we were somewhat concerned about if there was a cost overrun, what would happen. We have been told, and we relayed to Mr. Kopecki that the communication has been wonderful from Jathan, the project engineer, and that the engineers are very, very excited to work on this project. It is the project of a lifetime for them, and some engineers may never see a project like this again, so it's pretty great to have it here in Seward. We did speak about the operations and operation and management that ends for the old tunnel in 2027 before the new tunnel is finished. And our legislators said that they would work on getting that changed so that there would be an extension, so for the old tunnel, the operations O&M would continue until the new tunnel is built. And those conversations will continue because we need them to continue. We need them to continue with the O&M before they finish the new tunnel. Next, we met with EPA and mostly spoke of water sewer line funding and extensions, but also the congressionally designated spending, CDS funding that the city was awarded grant funding for, $2 million for the sludge removal project comes out of this agency. They have just started the process for actually getting the funds to the municipalities. And what we were told is that it's a one-year funding, but we have no idea when this one-year clock starts ticking. So we're starting these conversations with them and also meeting with them to get the regulations. Some of the regulations have not been written, so we're waiting on that. We spoke of it, water sewer extension projects and possible funding opportunities. And block grants, spoke of that as well. Next met with Senator Stevens, who is very happy with how the Lowell Creek Tunnel project is progressing. As you know, he worked on that, actively worked on that for many years. Also, Coast Guard, he fully supports the Arctic cutter here, as well as the fast response cutter here in Seward, and will continue to work to bring that icebreaker to Seward as well. He's very interested in the developer reimbursement program and requested a white paper, more information on it and the success of the program. He's heard about it all the way to Washington DC, so that was pretty exciting. Then we met with Senator Murkowski, honestly most of her staff, because she was in hearings and she popped in at the very end. Spoke of the Low Canyon Tunnel project as well. She was very active in securing that funding. Coast Guard as well, and then we did speak to her about child care regulations, because the Coast Guard, child care also affects them as well, and her staff is going to take a look at regulations to see what they can do. And then spoke of the CDS funding, that the sludge removal, and as included in the packet, she also included the Public Works facility project in our CDS request for this year at $7.5 million for funding. No guarantee that that will happen. I mean, that it'll guarantee that it will happen, but it has passed the first hurdles of going through USDA for approval on their end, because the funding will come out of USDA. We then met with USDA regarding loan, grants, guaranteed funding, what can be funded, recreation, public facilities, harbor projects. We still continue to have a little bit of an issue with that. While Seward is designated as rural, our median income level is higher than USDA, but there might be some projects that we can work with USDA on. There was a longer conversation, but that, and just as a side note, $11 million for the Chugach project is coming from USD funding. That was pretty nice. We also met with Congresswoman Peltola, and that was nice to meet with her again. I worked actually with her in Bethel when she was in the state legislature. So she was very impressed with our priorities guide, and she brought that up as well, and asked us about our priorities, and we met with her and then left, and she is including in her CDS requests the Heat Loop project for her. She's requesting that as well. Senator Murkowski is also including the SMIC utility expansion project in her request for this funding year as well. No guarantee funding for these projects, but they are making it past the first cut. They're calling it cuts, making it past the first cut, and we'll watch to see how that continues on. I don't know. Norm? Okay. The Honorable Vice Mayor. He got called that everywhere we go, and now it's just a joke. So.
Really?
You're embarrassing me.
I know. So anyway, so that's what happened in Washington, D.C. And, you know, when Norm and I were sitting at the airport on our way back, we received the email about, from the Congresswoman and the Senator putting these projects in the CDS funding. And that's a combined, I'm going to say $5 million that it could be funded, and part of it is the relationships that we're making and the information that we're providing to our legislators, and also very valuable meetings with these agencies to continue talking about the projects. We definitely want to continue the conversation about Low Canyon project. Well, it sounds like there's very much support for any cost overruns. We just really need to keep that and explaining how that canyon is vital to our community and the flooding risks if they do not, continue the project. Pretty confident they will, but it's we have to continue, with that voice and that messaging. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, that's really good report, good news. Questions for City Manager about the report or anything else? I have one question that several citizens have brought up, and it seems really inconsequential at this point in time, but can we get the Christmas lights down soon?
I said that today.
Oh, okay. I'm
It is
doing this to
time.
honor those folks that have asked me to ask you publicly.
Yes, we spoke of that today, and someone did mention, well, it's still snowing, and so Christmas lights are okay.
But I
That could be the reason it's snowing.
That's
We
exactly.
are working on that,
Okay,
yes,
that's
thank
why I
you.
said I hate to mention it now, but I know we were anxious to get them up early, and I was pushing that, now we kind of need to get
It's
them
time.
down soon. Okay, yes, Councilmember DeMoss.
I do have a couple questions, actually, thank you. I'm wondering what the status is of the website for the campgrounds. Are we able to take reservations, and has that been working smoothly so far?
Thank you for that question. Yes, that the camp spot is back up and running, and reservations can be made, and yes.
Go ahead.
And then regarding Parks and Rec, I noticed that we have a lot of positions to fill, and those are typically a little tougher to fill.
Yes.
In the past, we talked about analyzing the wages and making sure we could fill those seasonal positions. How are we looking regarding that, and specifically the gardening position? Will that be filled this year?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It's hard to fill those positions, and it continues to be hard. I would encourage anyone who knows anyone who wants to work seasonally. The originally budgeted $16 per hour. It's now up to $18 as we did last year, with double pay on holidays. Regarding specifically the gardener is not coming back. However, there is someone that is going to be working part-time as a gardener until they leave in June, but they will do the planting and get the bulk of the work done before they leave.
Thank you. Good. Other questions? I can't see beyond you there. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, and thank you for all, the three of you, for going to DC. Maybe next year I'll get to go. Okay, now we're at City Clerk report. You probably want to speak to your report.
I would like to draw attention to the election, the special election. That would be next Tuesday. The election day is May 2nd in this room, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., if anyone needs a ballot by mail, tomorrow at 5 p.m. is the deadline to apply for that with the city clerk. And if you want to vote ahead of time, you can come to the city clerk's office from 8 to 5 weekdays and cast your ballot. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So now we are at other reports and announcements. Planning and Zoning Commission report to Council, April 2023, and we have the chair of P&Z here in the flesh. And there is a report on page 43.
What's that?
It does appear on page 43 in our packet.
I much prefer sitting down. Thank you for this. This makes it a little easier. Actually, I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to provide a brief overview on what we have accomplished with the Planning and Zoning Commission during this last quarter. It's actually 4 months as opposed to the 3. But in particular, I'd like to thank the council's efforts on the code change for us, particularly for our residential qualifications for our commissioners, as well as the attendance requirements, because, as you all know, it can be a bit of a speed bump for everybody if things don't get done. So I think these changes will make it more efficient and our decisions a little more timely. I also want to give some significant props to the community development division with Jason and his crew. They do yeoman's work up there. They have 7 commissioners and various levels of expertise and lack of expertise for a lot of us, and he spends the time to explain things to us and just goes out of his way to do it. Doesn't matter what it is. So it's pretty, we're very fortunate to have him. So, on to this. During the months of January through April 2023, the Planning and Zoning Commission had 9 scheduled meetings, but we only had 6 of them, primarily because of a lack of a quorum. And can be a bit problematic in the sense if somebody produces a lot of paperwork for it and just supports us, and then we can't have a quorum, and then things have to change from there. So that's why I really appreciate your efforts into getting the code change. But with that, one I would like to highlight in particular was the March 20th that we did have. The previous ones had been canceled. The joint work session with the Seward Bear Creek Flood Service Area Board. phenomenal group of people. I really enjoyed working with Stephanie in particular, and our loss, wherever she's going, is their gain, because she was phenomenal to work with, not only probably with us, but throughout with everybody in the city here. So, a great lady overall. Actions taken by the Planning and Zoning Commission. During this time period, we had 3 preliminary replats that were reviewed and approved. We had 2 conditional use permits that we reviewed, 1 rezone application, which was reviewed and approved, and 1 code amendment, as well as 3 plan recommendations were reviewed and approved. And that's 1 was comprehensive plan and 2 were in the land plan, municipal land plan. So the first one was Resolution 2022-27 of last year, but that was the code language that we had met with the flood board folks to align the language for our use throughout for our city code from 15-25 to align with the FEMA code. So it's great to have everybody working off the same sheet of music in terms of definition. So I'm thrilled that happened. The following resolution for the new year was the preliminary replat of the Gateway subdivision, and that created the Gateway subdivision Hilltop Edition, which was nice because that's starting to get our moving in the direction of getting more land for homes, lots, as well as rezones for the homes that we eventually like to put in. But that led into the rezone of the following resolution of 2023-002, which was the rezone of Gateway subdivision, and that allowed those residential R1 units, R1 zoning to R1 through R3, which would allow for single-family, multifamily, and duplexes as well. So that's going to help us quite a bit across the board in this town relative to the briefing that the city manager gave that for housing. We need to have that, and I think that's going to put us pretty far into that. We did a preliminary replat of the Jesse Lee subdivision, and that itself was a fairly small one. That was at Great Bear Circle. There was moving an interior lot line to the east to resolve a shed encroachment issue, to align the properties and everybody to have their properly lined land, and so there was no further any issues on that. The resolution that was the third preliminary replat was the 4th of July Creek subdivision out at Smick off of Olga, and that itself was having a Dutchess, what they called a Dutchess replat. There was a lot there that had an unsubdivided remainder of Block 6 was divided into lots 4 and 5, and 5 will now be probably anticipating it to be a boat storage area now that it's been replatted on that. Let's see here. Code amendments, rezone, preliminary replats. I have here. In addition to that, we had the granting 2 conditional use permits. One to John Weissel to construct a mixed-use commercial building with more than 2 apartments. That's down on 5th Avenue, which will be nice. It's the old First Video thing there. And he plans on having 2 offices in the front, and then I believe he'll have 3 apartments above that, which will be helpful, and also help clean up a little bit of a construction area looking thing. In addition to that, we have granting a conditional use permit to Coal Alaska, doing business as Quality Asphalt and Paving, and they'll be dredging and bringing down a lot of gravel from up Resurrection River down for all that wonderful construction we're all going to have to live through this summer on the road there. And let's see here. I think we have, following that, we had on January 24th, we had a Planning and Zoning Commission. We held a work session to discuss future access to the Spring Creek and 4th of July beaches, which was pretty important for us, because to realign and look at those to make sure that, one, they're marked the correct way, we have parking, and we'll probably have signage going out there. And then on March 20th, we had the joint work session with the Bear Creek, Seward Bear Creek Flood Service for the restoration of the Seward waterfront, as we're having, people have been bringing up a lot of concerns about that, and that's going to be a huge project if and when we're able to put that together. And then the last one we have is on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had 2 work sessions to discuss code amendments for lot frontages, which seems to be a point of discussion for a lot of people when they're building in their new land. Long-term rental definition, finally get that resolved and put that in. And specific regulations around the bunkhouses and dormitories, whether we're going to have a CUP or allow it to be outright built in certain areas. And then Awnings is something that has been brought up to a lot of folks, that downtown areas and down to the harbor, that might be a consideration, that not only does it help do us to a certain amount of signage, I guess, or to help in that area as well as protect people, but I guess I understand that it also helps protect the sidewalks over a period of time. They don't degrade nearly as quickly. So I think that's pretty much, I think that's good for the 6 meetings that we did manage to have. So, and I don't think I missed anything. I'll just have to defer to Jason. Did I think I missed anything, Jason? Nope, we're good. If you have any really specific questions, ask Jason. I don't have it.
Okay, thank you very much
All
for
right.
that report.
Okay, thank you.
That was thorough and informative and well presented. Thank you. Okay, now we're at presentations, and the first one is from the Small Business Development Center with Cliff. There's Cliff Cochran. Cliff, you have a PowerPoint, right?
You have a PowerPoint.
Yes. You have 10 minutes on this.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and City staff. It's good to be here in person and see y'all. I know I present on the big voice and emailed back and forth with some of y'all, but it's good to be here in person. This is an exciting part about what I do, is talking about all the great things that Kellyanne has done for this City of Seward community. So first off, we're going to talk about kind of an overview just of generally what we do at the Alaska SBDC. So we provide no-cost confidential business advising services, low-cost business workshops and webinars, and online resources and business tools. And tonight we're going to focus on the no-cost confidential business advising aspect, focused on Seward, on the work that Kellyanne has done in the community. So this is a look at the topics that Kellyanne's done in 2022, a look at the top 5. So we kind of specialize in startup assistance, helping folks determine if their business model is viable, if it can work in this market size. Kellyanne's done a lot of work in that area. Number 2 is financing and capital. She's worked a lot with folks, as we heard from Trent and Hannah earlier, folks looking to see if their business is ready to take on debt and possibly do a construction project, obtain a loan. We also work with a lot of business planning, folks looking to buy and sell a business, and managing a business. So that kind of rounds out our topics from calendar year 2022. This is a look at the top 5 industries that Kellyanne provided advising to in 2022. Of course, food service, accommodation services, tour operators, and retailers. What we think is great is that Kellyanne has direct experience in 3 of these top 5 industries, with her experience with the Flamingo, Salted Roots, and as an operation manager for Major Marine under tour operators. So it's great that she has kind of industry experience in these areas. And when we hired her, that was one of the areas that we really looked at, was that she has experience in what's really important to the Seward community. She actually beat out an applicant with a doctorate degree because we really liked that she was really integrated in the Seward community and had experience locally. I appreciate her moniker, "A rising tide lifts all boats." Just saying that, hey, if I can help my neighbor out, even if they're a competitor potentially, then it helps everyone overall to really make this the best community it possibly can be. Here's a look at workshops. So we have over 80 topics. This includes starting a business, LLCs in Alaska, one of our more complex workshops, down to just how to get a business license in Alaska. And what we think is great about this is that Kellyanne's first workshop for the SBDC was in this last month in November, a couple months back. She did a starting a business workshop at AvTech, and actually she ended up setting the record for having the most attendees in a starting a business workshop anywhere in the Alaska SBDC. We went back 20 years. There's 31 attendees at that event, and so we were really impressed. That beat all the Anchorage workshops as well. So being a Peninsula guy, born and raised in the Canada Peninsula, it's really cool to see one of our local advisors top the Anchorage advisors, who have a much larger market. We also have resources, so proprietary tools. We have financial projection models that are quite detailed. They're in Excel. We have a 20-tab financial projection model that can take a while to master. I can say Kellyanne's got it there after year 1. Business planning documents. We've got focused industry toolkits for folks looking to start businesses in more complex industries, such as restaurants, food service, childcare, We have one on assisted living, so industries that require more than just a business license and register a rural sales tax. We have some focused toolkits for those. We also have a business valuation guide helping folks start the conversation of, hey, I'm looking to sell and transition to my next phase. What's my business worth? And Kellyanne's worked with a number of folks in that capacity. We also have some small business FAQs. And earlier on in the meetings with Jason and Steve, and they're my witness, that we had said that it's probably a good idea to have a 3-year term starting out for a Steward Business Advisor, because it can take 3 years for someone to, for the most part, get on top of all this content. There's a lot. I've trained 10 business advisors at the Alaska SBC. It can take a couple of years to get this content down, and Kellyanne's got it down in year 1. So we're really pleased with her performance, and you're going to see that on the next few slides after this. So other resources we have a subscription to IBISWorld. IBISWorld is the global leader in industry intelligence. They update the reports every 6 to 12 months. They retail for $995 each. We provide these to clients for free. So we have an $11,000 subscription. We provide for free. Kellyanne provided 64 to business owners in Seward in 2022 for a value of $59,000. We also have a subscription to ProfitSense, so arguably the industry leader in benchmarking. They have over 1,400 benchmarking reports, provides racial analysis. There's also a business evaluation capability in there. This is a really neat tool where you basically take your business to the doctor and getting its blood drawn. Instead of checking for glucose and cholesterol, it's checking your current ratio, checking your sales to different ratios involving your business to see kind of how you're performing. And so that can really identify with folks either troubleshooting or looking to take on debt. Hey, what's it look like? And so that's a fantastic tool. If you're to approach SageWorks, it's $2,750 to get that done. We do it for folks for free. Kellyanne's done 26 her first year, worth $71,500. So a lot of value that, frankly, I don't have the bandwidth to provide for Soldat, Makina, and Seward, but Kellyanne's been able to do that in this community. So that's been fantastic having someone over here, boots on the ground. Here's a look at metrics. We keep track of a lot of metrics, and proud to say that actually Kellyanne was one of our first advisors. She actually was the first advisor on the Kenai Peninsula to get a perfect scorecard in her first year. You can see down below, we did a screenshot of it. So the first 6 advisors were all male, and she girled us. So congratulations to her. That's one of the reasons I came over here, is I have to admit that, yep, she topped us all. So she did a fantastic job in just her first year. And you can see her numbers are right on there. In terms of overall ranks, with the SBC, we had 15 advisors this past year. Some folks kind of came and went. She was number 3 in hours out of 15, number 2 in the number of businesses she helped folks start, number 3 in capital infusion in terms of how much cash she helped folks get from loans, owner investment, those types of things. And then overall, with kind of an amalgamation of all the metrics, she was number 3 out of 15, only behind myself and Ian Grant, our rural director. I have 7 years experience, he has 13. So she had a really strong year, and just a testament to how connected and well connected she is in the Seward business community. We survey everyone who works with us, and so here's just kind of a snapshot of all the surveys that folks have compiled for Kellyanne. Just a lot of folks have been really positive. I think they've appreciated her more than me at some point. I think she's had some more paragraphs than I've got this last year, so kudos to her. So that's just, I'm running out of time, so that's just a snapshot of some of the things folks have said about her. This is a really important slide. It talks about the year-over-year comparison and what things are like without a Seward Business Advisor in parts of 18, 19, and 20, and 21, and then of course what Kellyanne's been able to do in 2022. And you can see there's a fairly significant jump. The only metric that kind of hangs in there is capital infusion, but in 2020 and 2021, that was exclusively COVID relief. So, I mean, money was falling from the sky at that point. So those are certainly inflated. 2022 is just all of Kellyanne's work. So client hours, new businesses, capital infusion, all skyrocketed the result of having someone here on site. Here's a look at kind of one of the other parts of her position. Of course, she has duties of the chamber, and so she ran Startup Week this last year in November. She had a few things that stood out to me. She had the most in-person events scheduled outside of Anchorage and Fairbanks. Of course, Seward is not the third largest city in Alaska, so that's pretty impressive that she was able to get basically the third, probably biggest startup week out there. Her Ladies Who Launch event had 52 attendees. It was the most attended in-person event outside of Anchorage. So that was really impressive. And of course, we have some success stories. This is testimonies that folks have put together based on their experiences. With Kellyanne, of course, we heard from Trent and Hannah earlier from Kayak Adventures. Kind of the takeaway here is that businesses need help with determining next steps. The SBC really effectively fills the void between accountants, attorneys, and bankers with neutral advice. Our main goal is to get positive surveys from folks and to take care of business owners, and so we're not necessarily looking to profit off them, so to provide a neutral voice has been really important and really well received. We've also worked with Heidi from the Seward Dog Lodge, and her main takeaway is that, of course, business owners, they often can feel isolated, especially in potentially smaller communities, but Kellyanne helps entrepreneurs see the big picture and make data-driven decisions to help with real-life decisions. So that's the end. I hit it, and so if you all have any questions, please don't hesitate. I didn't plan that. I thought I had more time, but I guess it worked out. I apologize, my air traffic control voice took over a little fast, but if you all have any questions, please don't hesitate. I'm heading back to Soldotna after this to tuck my kids in if they're still awake. So, thank you all.
Thank you very much. I know that when this started up, I wasn't sure how it would go, and it's been really obviously successful, so thanks to very good. Okay, we have one last presentation, do we indeed, from the Alaska Trails on the Long Trail. Okay. We need to get your name and tell us about it.
My name is Maria Midavaya, and I am the Alaska Long Trail Project Coordinator with Alaska Trails. Thank you for the opportunity to present today about the Alaska Long Trail, and also thank you for passing the resolution of support 2 years ago for the Alaska Long Trail. We really appreciate it.
Arrow to the right.
Thank you. So the Alaska Long Trail, here is a little map. It's a little hard to see, unfortunately. In blue, you see the existing segments on the ground, and in dotted red are the proposed segments, or rather identified gaps. So about 20% of the trail is already on the ground in existing segments. And let's say 80%, it sounds like a large number, 80% needs a little bit more planning. So the vision for the trail is actually a trail system that will be a collection of braided trails in some places that will connect 500 miles of Alaska's terrain between Seward and Fairbanks. There are also ambitious plans to extend the trail to southeast at some point and north to the Arctic coast, but that's a little bit down the line, yeah. So, and the trail will embrace the many ways Alaskans recreate outdoors and bolster the Alaskan economy by attracting visitors from all over the world and also enriching communities and residents in Alaska. So, putting it in the context, the Alaska Long Trail is a trail project, but it's also an economic development project. What is outdoor recreation economy? It's basically it's added value, GDP, to the overall economy that comes from all types of outdoor recreation activities. Nationally, outdoor recreation is referred to as a sleeping giant of the U.S. economy. Last year, or 2 years ago, in 2021, outdoor recreation brought $459 billion to the U.S. GDP. In Alaska, outdoor recreation brings 3.6% of GDP, and it's surpassed only by Montana, Vermont, and Hawaii. All three of them are strong outdoor recreation states. Outdoor recreation jobs are increasing in some industries. Recently, we don't see much growth, but in outdoor recreation in Alaska, jobs were increasing 18% in 2021. Further, 6 out of 10 Alaskans live here because of outdoor recreation opportunities. you might not think about it as outdoor recreation economy, but for example, I live in Girdwood and I pay property taxes, and I live in Girdwood because of all the outdoor recreation opportunities that the town provides. So, and likewise, people move to Alaska because of all the wonderful adventures and outdoor recreation that the state provides. So it is important for the workforce and retaining the workforce in the state. Trails are good investments. For every $1 spent on public open space, there is a $5.3 return on investment, according to the economic study done in the Matsu in 2015. And finally, outdoor recreation is an antidote to out-migration. Again, retaining workforce, enriching lives of the residents. In growth post-COVID, outdoor recreation was on the rise pre-COVID times, but during COVID, of course, you probably saw it here as well in Seward, the outdoor recreation just went through the roof. And the 2020 was the greatest single year increase in outdoor recreation nationally, and trail use doubled during the pandemic. In Alaska, when we look at data, total visits to some Alaska state parks increased 50% between 2019 and 2022. And the good news is that this trend is looks like it's here to stay. People are keeping their patterns, the new patterns of use, and continue being outdoors. So back to Alaska Lawn Trail. So again, Alaska Lawn Trail is operating in the context of outdoor recreation economy, and it has a variety of goals. These are not in any particular order. Improving access while serving diverse interests. Along many places along the route, there are some sections with very good access, such as Anchorage, for example, but there are many more areas where access is more difficult to establish, and that's mostly segments in the north. Promoting healthy lives is an important goal, of course, important for communities. Communities with outdoor recreation opportunities show fewer healthcare costs, and just happier residents. Promoting heritage and building a stronger and more durable economy. And finally, celebrating and sustaining what makes Alaska unique. Why Fairbanks to Seward? Or we can say why Seward to Fairbanks. So there is already momentum and land manager support along the route. Alaska Trails is a facilitator of this concept, but we have a strong coalition of partners along the route, and we work with many state agencies and federal agencies and communities along the way. The proposed route goes closely to the road system and railroad system, which means easier access and also benefits to communities, because many communities are located along the railroad system and the road system. So establishing a continuous trail will bring a lot of economic benefits to those communities. The costs are pretty manageable. Trails are not super expensive. They're definitely cheaper than roads. And a couple of $1 million goes a long way. Significant portions already exist, and there's a type of a Goldilocks factor, kind of like it's not too wild, it's wild but not too wild. It's somewhere, it's just right. So it's close again. Access is pretty good, so you wouldn't have to fly a float plane to gain access to any portion of the trail. You can access it from the road, and finally, the goal for the trail is flexible, multi-use route, year-round route, where different uses will be available along different segments of the trail. If you see here along Parks Highway, maybe it's kind of hard to see, but on the west side of the highway there's a blue line, and that's a snow machine route, but on the right side of the highway, on the east side, there's a red dotted line, that's where planning needs to happen. And the blue line is snow machine route and not accessible in the summer because it's a marshy wetlands area. But the route on the east side of the highway would be a hiking route in the summer, for example. We've seen a lot of bipartisan support over the past 2 years, and that's good news because it shows that trails are supported by everyone. There is no party line divide in support for trails. Just a small list. And so who is working on this concept? So I mentioned Alaska Trails is the facilitator of the process, but we're working with part of the Alaska Lawn Trail Coalition, which comprises of a couple of representatives of each of these 5 regions along the route. And also we're starting to establish regional working groups, which will be composed of various stakeholders in each of the communities along the way. There's been support, we've been lucky, successful in the past couple of years securing state funding for the Lawn Trail projects, as well as federal funding through support of Senator Murkowski, already mentioned earlier today, through CDS funds in 2022-23, and we submitted a couple of projects this year as well for 24. I want to bring up the Alaska Lawn Trail workbook that I would encourage you to check out. We posted it on our website, and it's about 80-page document full of maps and information that we currently have available about existing routes, potential routes, and identified gaps along the way. It's on our website. This is an example of a map that you can find in the workbook, and this is a Seward portion. This information comes mostly from the U.S. Forest Service. They are our very strong partners in this, and we would like to invite City of Seward to participate in this process of identifying gaps, collaborate, become part of the coalition, and do this, work together. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I know that the previous mayor, her full intention is someday to hike that trail, so I don't think I'll be able to by the time it's built.
You might be able to snow machine or ski.
It's a possibility.
Jog.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
I have some brochures here.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you. Okay, having gotten through things on the consent agenda, we have no public hearings. We are to Resolution 2023-049, which was, which Madam Clerk, would you read, please?
Resolution 2023-049 is authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2023 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 double cab from Chevrolet of South Anchorage using the state procurement process in a not-to-exceed amount of $60,073 and appropriating funds.
Okay, thank you. I would need a motion and a second, please, to approve.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2023-049.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, do you have something?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the justification for the vehicle is in the packet, and then, as you can tell, Director Montgomery is here to speak to it as well.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is actually a fleet truck that's used by our crews. It's not assigned to any one person. It is a replacement for a truck that was wrecked and totaled back in December. When we looked at the supply chain a year ago, it took us over a year to get another vehicle. So when we were looking at this one about a month ago, it was available. So we went ahead and placed the order at that time. If we were looking at another truck online today, and what we were told is that truck is actually not available at this time. It's a lower cost truck, and when it does arrive, that it's all of the features of the truck we have are not a part of this one. So it would be marked up another $12,000 immediately when it comes in.
Okay, thank you. So Councilmember Finch, you asked to keep...
Yeah, because I actually inquired on that truck online today, is it being there when I talked with them? And it's only got 4 miles on it, being a 2022 model, a fleet truck instead of the Z71 with all the extra features.
Sure.
The city should be looking at purchasing fleet vehicles instead of Z71s. I don't understand why we have to have all the bells and whistles in a work truck.
For this particular truck, with what it's used for, the terrain that it has to drive through, we equip these trucks with winches, and other materials. Yeah.
You can put all that on a fleet truck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we were replacing the truck that we had before with a similar truck.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. What was I know I read it, but I just wanted you to say it for the public.
Sure.
The insurance, I'm sure we got an insurance replacement check for the vehicle that was
We
totaled.
did. When we got the insurance for the wreck truck, it was approximately $37,000.
Thank you.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this? It's good for the public to hear what this
Yeah.
is about. Councilmember Wells.
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to ask Councilmember Finches, did you have a different suggestion or an idea that, like a different proposal?
My suggestion was when I spoke with them, I texted them last night and spoke with them this morning, the 2022,000 truck with only 4 miles on it would save the city $6,000. From $46,000 for that truck to $52,000 for that one. Why aren't we shopping in the fleet instead of all the upgrades?
Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. So my follow-up question then would be, you stated that Councilmember Finch states that vehicle is here.
Sure.
But you're under the impression that it's not, and
Correct.
once it is, then it's going to be...
Correct.
How much time before it's ready?
When we followed up today, we actually talked to someone at the dealership who informed our employee that that particular truck is not there yet, and he did not know when it's going to be available. Now, I assume we're talking about the right truck or the same truck.
Yeah, there's two 2022 trucks there.
Right.
And when they called me this morning,
Okay. The one that I was aware of is 46,000.
two identical ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we looked at it, the dealer said that when that truck comes in, it comes in without a bumper, it comes in without a bed, and some of the other basic features, and that before it ever gets to the lot, it's going to be another 12,000 marked up to put those features on the vehicle.
Okay, because on the spec sheet, it showed that the bumpers were there and the bed were there, so
Right.
something's misarranged somewhere.
Yeah, I have no problem with us following up tomorrow and reporting back to council on what we find out.
I'm just trying to see if we can save some money and shop around.
No, I understand, yeah.
I'll even get
Councilmember
the spec
Finch?
sheet and send it to you.
You need to raise your
Oh,
hand.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, you can speak. Just reminding you, so the public that's listening can know.
Yeah, we have no problem looking at other vehicles if they're going to be less expensive. Again, we were looking at this one as a replacement, and we were looking for something similar. And when we checked 3 different dealerships about a month ago, there was only one that was available. And because the year before when we ordered a truck, it took us over a year to get it, we figured we'd better go ahead and lock in on this one.
Okay, other questions, discussion? We ready to vote on this? It appears we are, Madam Clerk.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2023-049. DeMoss?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Calhoun?
Yes.
Mayor McClure?
Yes.
That resolution is approved.
Okay. Could I ask if anyone needs a break? We only have a couple more items. Okay. So going on to other new business, we have discuss Opiro delegation exchange and determine next steps. And there's some information on page 319 of the packet. And I sort of requested this because I wasn't sure how we were moving along with it, and I thought it would be important to check in with the clerk and find out where we stand and what's going on. So, Madam Clerk, do you have a...
Sure. On page 320 and 321, there are the two legs of the trip, Obihiro to Seward and Seward to Obihiro. And I just used the last delegation exchange as the prototype for this. So I started, this is just a draft. One item that Obihiro has requested, if you notice on the top of 320, they are proposing 2 date frames. So it's August 25th to September 1, or it's August 26th to September 2.
That's not what...
On page 320 at the top.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't write it out grouped together. So they're asking.
I see what you mean.
Do you want to do August 25th through September 1 or August 26th through September 2? So that's a decision they've asked for, and I didn't write it out. It's confusing the way I wrote it. So
I was trying to figure. So does that incorporate or not incorporate certain aspects of what we're doing with the Derby?
I don't know the difference of why they're asking for those.
Does it matter? I mean,
I don't know that it matters as far as the events that they're wishing to do. Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Wells.
I would like to check my calendar because I'm the one sponsoring the lodging for 6 guests.
Oh,
And so I need to make sure that I have those dates available.
okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's right here.
Well, oh, yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
okay.
And you can check them right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, unless anybody has an issue either way, I mean, I don't care which
Yeah.
dates, but
Okay,
we
so
could
it's all
just...
right?
The 25th is a Friday, the 26th is a Saturday. September 1st is a Friday, and the 2nd is a Saturday.
Okay. Does anybody have any serious, Councilmember Barnwell?
Yeah, I don't think the Santa Derby is, when is the Derby dates this year?
We could find that out from, Mr. Regis has it too, who's pointing. Could we suspend the rules to have Kat give us that answer? Okay, go ahead.
It's August 12th through August 20th.
So and they
if
want...
that is part of their plans while they are here. It's the second Saturday, and the Saturday is early this year.
Oh.
Oh, okay, so they'll miss it.
Okay. Madam Clerk, what do we...
That's interesting, I'm not sure that they realize that
Maybe you should
they'll miss
check,
it.
maybe you should check back with them and then we can refigure this.
So that was one of the things they identified, so.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Okay, the other thing they identified was the Founder's Day celebration on August 28th. They called that out as something specific that they wanted to take part in.
Well, that would be exciting because we're starting to plan that Thursday night later, so with RVHS. Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, so under the activities, they do have the Silver Salmon Derby listed with a 10-pack charter and closing ceremonies awards. I'm wondering if they would be just as happy with a 10-pack charter to go fishing and have their own competition on the boat and not necessarily participate in the Silver Salmon Derby.
I'm sure they would love to go out on the water
Yeah,
and fish.
that's-
Absolutely, yeah. But I would like to call their attention to the Silver Salmon Derby dates, and that might make a difference on their end, I'm not sure.
Okay, this is a council discussion. We don't normally have audience speak at this time.
I just have a fishing tip on it.
Okay, well, maybe in your closing comments we can do that.
It's relevant to this, if you don't mind.
Councilmember Barnwell.
I'm just wondering why there's a discrepancy in the time frame on these. A 10-day visit on the top and then the...
I know.
Yeah, that's just, that's from 2 different emails from them, is
Okay.
why.
It seems like-
The first was a rough date range
Okay.
they threw out there, and then they skinnied it down in a,
Okay.
I just didn't do a good job with that.
Well, so, repeating, does anyone on council care if it's August 25th or 26th or September 1 or 2? I mean, except for you with your dates. So
Do you have a preference?
I did check my calendar, and I can do either one of those trips because I have friends that we're gonna stay.
Yeah.
So I can just have them stay somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
No problem.
All right, yeah, so to Mr. Barnwell's question, at first they threw out, oh, well, it'll come for 10 days, somewhere between, mid to the end of August is kind of where that started.
Okay, so, I guess you should probably check and see how desperate they want to be here for the salmon derby, and they may have to reassess. Otherwise, pick a date. I don't think it matters.
There are some other decision points that we might be able to accomplish. So the last time, they sent, and they are planning actually, this delegation list is who they identified. So the mayor, Yonezawa, who's been the mayor there for many years now, he's required to stay in a hotel, so he can't stay, and he'll stay with his entourage, which is the council president and probably through the city employees. And then their citizens will stay, and maybe one city employee at your place. They'll probably have a city employee be the interpreter, as they did the last time. That list of activities is everything that we did with them last time, and that's available. And then wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with maybe if we reached out to the chamber, the Arts Council and the Mural Society, and could maybe work with them to collaborate on the activities and events.
That sounds great to me.
Okay.
I mean, the more the better. Yeah.
Just maybe put in mind that we will expect to do gifts for them. That would be protocol. And I don't know about budget. The last time was 20-ish thousand, but we can wait on that until we get some more clarification. Because I think airfare is going to be different this time, post-COVID.
All right.
Yeah. On the Sewer to Obihiro delegation, Vice Mayor Osenga and then Councilmember Wells and Barnwell were already identified. I wanted to see if there was interest in maybe sending the city manager or assistant city manager or another city employee as a possibility. And then opening it up to, last time we had 5 citizens.
Okay. I think one other employee would be good.
Okay.
I mean, at that point, who knows who our city manager will be.
Yeah.
And then, how did we open it up? Well, it's in there. We had an application process, and then they presented their case, and then we chose.
Right. They filled out the application. I included that. They also had to commit that they would pay for a portion, at least of the trip, and they did. They did about halvesies with the city.
Right.
As it turned out. Yeah.
Okay. Any input on this?
What was the cost of the city going over?
We put in, we paid $1,500 towards their airfare times 6.
I mean, total down here for the budget.
21,000, just over $21,000 for both.
So
Councilmember Calhoun?
No, ma'am.
Oh, I thought it was your hand. Councilmember Finch?
So with the COVID and airfares, we're looking at roughly 50,000 for both of these to go, total to go on?
I wouldn't think it'd be that much.
Are we paying for theirs and ours?
No, they pay for their travel. We pay for their accommodations when they're here.
Councilmember Finch?
One thing I'd also like to point out for everybody here, really need to pay attention to what's going on in that neck of the world with the missiles and the military maneuvers going on.
Okay,
you might not be able to get back.
Councilmember DeVos.
So it's, I have a question for the clerk. How soon would you need the list of people that are traveling there?
Well, we have time to do it, but they are planners. So they're already putting the heat on for answers. So they're ready to I don't know when we'll buy the tickets. 2 months out, maybe?
Councilmember DeMoss?
Okay, so 2 months out. Well, if we want city manager or assistant city manager to go, I guess I just want to ask the assistant city manager if he's interested in going, since we don't know about our city manager yet.
Who we don't know.
And they probably won't even be on yet. I just want to make sure we have good representation if we're doing this. So we're locking in Vice Mayor, Wells, Barnwell.
Sounds like good representation to me.
Is that something you're interested in?
I would be willing to go.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And one other city employee? We could have a lottery or something.
And you don't have to decide that right
Yeah.
now, just.
But is it time to develop the question or the application and get those out there maybe? Do we have to have a motion and all that to send those out and plan, or can we just direct the clerk to advertise citizen participation?
Well, another question as well is, do you want to have a planning committee of council members as you did last time?
That might be useful. We did.
I do believe that the application and the process was brought to council for approval by the body the last time, so it might be a good idea.
Okay, so the question of having a planning committee, does anybody want to be on a planning committee to, get the ball rolling and plan?
I don't want to be on it, but I have a question.
That wasn't the question, no. Councilmember DeMoss.
I have a suggestion, actually.
Okay.
After my question, I'm wondering, is the chamber director going on this trip? Or is that something I just thought of or heard or dreamt of?
Well, she could be an applicant.
I'm just wondering if that would be a good person to help plan. For the chamber.
And I believe she would probably be willing to be on a committee to help plan. I'm seeing some positive. Does anybody want to work with the chamber director to plan some things? Councilmember Barnwell, you're nodding your head. Good. We don't need a lot of people. Death by committee happens, so.
The planning committee is for the incoming visitors.
Right.
And then the
Right,
application
that's
is
what-
for our citizens to go outbound.
Right, but it's two parts. I mean, there's two sides.
So,
Councilmember Wilson.
I figure since I'm donating 10 nights of lodging, I'm gonna skip the incoming planning committee. But I definitely think that one of the citizens, as a benefit for the entire community, should be the chamber director.
Oh, to travel there?
Well, there will be, you
Yes.
agree, okay. So would it be a planning committee of two, and you guys see each other a lot, and then if you need help, you could call out, reach out to me and others? Okay.
And maybe Chris from the clerk's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
At that point,
Yes.
right, we're going to be transitioning.
Right.
I forgot, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other, does that cover what we need to?
Well, I mean, I just kind of, I guess, want to take your temperature on that budget, because it could be somewhere between 20 and 30,000, but if that is, 25-ish, where we end up heading.
Okay, Councilmember DeMoss.
I just want clarification to follow up Councilmember Finch's question. We host them, so we pay for their visit here, and they host us, so they pay for our visit there. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we'll pay for their accommodations and food and entertainment and that sort of thing while they're here. So we host them. They just pay for their airfare to come over, and then vice versa.
Perfect,
So
thank you.
when we send our people over, they will want to know, is everyone comfortable staying in a homestay? And then they'll put everybody with families. They'll find, or does somebody really want to stay in a hotel or need to? We don't have the same provision that their mayor has. So they'll expect to find homestay locations for all of our people, but they'll come and get you and they'll take you to all these activities and events and you won't pay for anything while you're there. Well, you will have to pay for your own bed at the horse race, probably.
Other questions, or have we covered that then pretty much, Madam Clerk?
Well, it's enough to
I'm sorry, I have one more question if I may, Mayor.
Councilmember Wells.
So, I thought that I was donating the lodging.
You are.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
That's the way I took it.
Yeah, I am willing to. I heard you say, well, we pay for their visit here, and I was like, no, I'll donate the lodging.
Yeah,
We
yes.
collectively as a
We appreciate that you
society.
are donating your that
Yes.
lodging.
Okay.
So you're going to
That's
save
awesome.
some money. Thank you.
And food.
Okay. Other discussion on this?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That was good. The other thing we need to do is schedule a joint work session with P&Z, Port and Commerce, and Historic Pres. And there on page 331, I believe there's a suggestion of potential dates.
Yeah, and I just really wanted to bring this forward because it would be remiss if I did not. So if council wishes to continue with this annual meeting.
When was the last time we had, it seems like we just did this, didn't we? I know it's not at the tip of anyone's fingers, but it just seems like we had a joint.
Well, you had, and in the agenda statement, there's, in this middle, it's a note of clarification. In January, the city manager had a special meeting to discuss the roles and responsibilities. And
That's right.
The city manager and I had spoken about it prior to that special meeting, and she said that it was not intended, the purpose of that meeting was not intended to replace this annual. So this is to discuss their priorities and their direction.
The usual
from
thing.
council. Yeah.
Right. And each one gets a half hour. Well, I personally wouldn't want to do it on the 8th at this point. So how about May 22nd, starting at 5? I don't know if you've got it in front of you, but 5 to 5:30, 5:30 to 6, and 6 to 6:45, giving a little extra for P&Z peers.
Yeah.
Is that okay with the rest of council? Because so far, I believe we don't have anything scheduled on May 22nd before the meeting, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let
you.
it be so by unanimous consent. Huh? Starting at 5. I know it's going to be a little rough, but yeah, so what the schedule would be is Historic Press at 5 and Pac Cab at 5:30 and then P&Z at 6 prior to the regular meeting. Okay? Okay, we're all in agreement. All right. So now, where are we? We have done everything, and there's a nice little thing on page 332 from the clerk, congratulating us all for getting our APOC forms in on time, and I felt that just made me feel really good, you know?
Gold stars.
Gold
Somebody got
star.
the Red Lantern Award.
Yeah.
I was out fishing that day, I was running up the box calling, I'll be there in 5 minutes, and I made it 5 minutes to 5.
But you made it, that's
I made
the
it.
thing, and I think that's just awesome because it's the kind of thing that's easy to forget these days. Okay, phew, so that brings us to citizens' comments, and this is the time where you get 5 minutes per speaker, and there's no sign up for this, so you just raise your hand and I call you up. Kat, you raised your hand first. We don't have a whole lot of citizens out here, but
Hi, my name is Kat Sorensen. I'm the Executive Director of the Seward Chamber of Commerce, and I live inside city limits. I just wanted to say the Chamber would be super excited to work with Bob and the Planning Committee and the whole City Council on guiding and planning the trip for the Obi Hero exchange group. That sounds like a really awesome event. I wish we could move the Salmon Derby back a week, but it's always been on the second Saturday, even if the fish aren't going to be there that early. So I would recommend if they don't want to move up, they'll have more fun fishing probably that earlier week. But I didn't say that. Knock on wood, the fish come early this year. But yeah, looking forward to working on that and planning a really great trip for them when they arrive in Seward. I also wanted to say it was really nice to hear the presentation from Cliff I've heard Kellyanne give the presentation a few times, and she doesn't brag about herself enough. I think in that it's really nice to hear from an outsider's perspective how well she's doing and how much of a boon to the local business environment that position has been for the past year. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Regis, and then I'll get you to.
So normally use the outside city limits, and actually we talk about harbor stuff. So might have been noticing we've been helping Parks and Rec parking, clearing the parking lots. So we're sweeping, and so that center parking lot is becoming a problem. We're going to put some signs up to local people. If you know who works around that area, please be aware of the signs so we can clear that area. We're trying to prep everything. These guys are going to come down and paint everything. We got a Maggie got a screaming deal on painting all the lines in the parking lots, which haven't been done in a while. So if you could just, let your folks know that, the signs are out there for a reason. Please abide by them so we can get everything done and get painted before it really gets busy. So that's what I just wanted to say tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, sorry to interrupt.
Madam City Manager.
But while he's still there, could you, I'm gonna call her by her other name, but Congresswoman Peltola,
Tola.
Thank you, spoke of the Lou Young Memorial, so I thought maybe you could touch on that.
So Congressman Young, he always had that fishing tournament in the August and stuff. So she wants to continue that thing because it's such a great thing for kids and stuff. She wants to continue that service. So they're coming down here in June, I believe she said, to continue the thing that Congressman Young did. We'll bring kids here fishing. So she wants to keep it going. She thought it was a good thing. So she'll be around here in June.
That's neat. I love that. And I understand potentially there will be a Congressman Don Young Day on June 9th or something, is in the legislature, or in I guess the state legislature. Anyway, that's the thing. Okay, Tim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tim McDonald, Inside City Limits. Last year, you guys spent $21,500 and $1,500 on that Obihara trip, and $1,500 went to the Citizens for the thing. You're at 7 3/4% approximately for the citizens portion. Well, energy is at the top of the agenda, and I have a different take on it than pretty much everybody else. Maybe I'm looking at the future more, but I think this this tunnel diversion project is a huge opportunity. It's on our land. It's our project, basically, even though the feds control it and they're doing it and paying for it and calling the shots. The thing is nothing exists in a vacuum, especially a $250 billion project. There's never been anything even close to that in Seward. And it cannot exist in a vacuum. I mean, I was talking earlier about if we had let net metering grow 25 years ago, I mean, this is part of it. We can have 50 water generators in the old tunnel and, either paddle wheels or Venturi assisted things and generate a ton of electricity on that. And, there is another shaft right next to that tunnel, by the way. I told Dow Engineering about it. They changed their entry projection. It's about 50 feet away from it, slightly lower elevation. We were in it when we were kids. It goes back about 90 feet. But anyway, it's a shaft. There's another shaft over above the old hospital site. Mine shaft, I think it's partially caved in. You can enlarge these and fill them with sand. And the sand batteries operate basically on the same principle as your hot water closed loop system that you're doing off the beach. Are very similar. In that case, it's using the groundwater and the ground as a battery. In this case, we're doing the same thing, but we're using a more efficient battery in sand. Sand is the best hold repeat, and it's cheap we can do it all ourselves. We don't need any specialist contractors. Our contractors, we have the sand and sewer, they can move it, we have the holes to put it in, we have contractors here that can lay the piping. The point of all this is that if we had been doing this 25 years ago, we would be so far ahead. We would not only be energy efficient and adding this sort of thing right now, we would be selling energy and making a ton of money. And it's a travesty to think, for whatever reason, those guys working on it, the federal government, us, or anybody else, that you can spend $250 million, and that's going to be in a vacuum, and we're not going to take advantage of that for the ancillary benefits that. I mean, why are we doing it? Other than that, it's just an insurance policy. We already have a tunnel that works. It's worked for the last 60 or 80 years, however long it's been in there. So this thing doesn't do any good unless we have ancillary benefits off it besides the flood control. The flood control is a given. We already have it, it's just improving it. $250 million improvement. So we need to get together with these guys and talk some reality. They can't do this. It just cannot happen. It's a travesty. Are we doing this so that the contractors can siphon off $100 billion? What's going on here? You know, that's hypothetical, but I mean, you understand it. We're not doing anything. There's no value added here. This is $250 billion. $250 billion with no added value. It's just an insurance policy. How ridiculous can you get? I ran the numbers on it. Every single person in the United States, all 350 million of us, contributed $7.14 to this project. I want my $7.14 to mean something. So you guys better get it on, man. This is a full court press. This is not generational. This is once in a century. And if you blow it by not doing anything, it's on you.
Thank you, Ken. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council and administration comments and responses to citizens' comments. And I'll begin with administration.
The first thing, and then I do have a comment, but the first thing that I didn't report on earlier was a meeting held with Mayor Matiki and Brenda Albert, the emergency manager, regarding the Lowell Point Road landslide, and then also the study that the state is supposed to have been conducting regarding the fault lines that were found along Bear Mountain further down. So just really talking about that and enlisting their help with the state. That the state hasn't started the monitoring process as they should, so we're going to work together to ensure that happens. Regarding the Lowell Canyon Tunnel project, it is $223 million, not billion. And also they did conduct studies regarding whether electricity could be generated out of there. And due to the boulders that come down, it is not feasible to have any type of equipment in the tunnel. That was conducted.
Thank you for that clarification.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Start with Councilmember Barnwell.
Alrighty. I really enjoyed hearing about Kellyanne's success. I think that's just a great program for our town. And I also think the Alaska Trail, the Long Trail thing, is a lot of opportunity for our town. I appreciate Miriam for coming down here to present for that today. I think the Washington group that represented us did a good job, and it's just exciting to see all the possibilities that are. It just seems like a positive time for Seward right now. That there's a lot of opportunities going on, and yeah, I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Finch.
I'd like to thank the linemen for, like, they said something wrong, they went ahead and fixed it. You know, it's always good to have maintenance like that instead of reactive maintenance. I'd like to see the public get out with HEA and get some more questions answered by HEA due to a lot of disinformation that's being put out. I'd like to thank the city manager and Honorable Vice Mayor Osinga for their efforts in Washington, D.C. It does have a flow to it.
It does, it does. So does.
But, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Is that it? Okay, Councilmember Wells.
Yeah, huge shout out to Kellyanne. I have, I've helped or tried to help a bunch of people in our community. You know, the most that I can as far as business plan writing or business direction, and since she's taken that position, the most of the help that I have to give is, here's Kellyanne's phone number, and it's been wonderful. So I'm really happy about that. So thank you, Kellyanne. She's crushing it. One citizen had commented that why is it that we didn't get a quote from Chugach, that we just picked HEA, and I wanted to state that that isn't true. We actually got quotes from both, and both their evaluations were within dollars. We cannot just charge $90 million because of the way the federal government works. The federal government puts a cap on what a utility can be purchased for and what a utility can be sold for. So we are not leaving any money on the table. The fact is that we're getting all the money that the federal government will allow HEA to give us. And so I want to put a squash to that misinformation. Also, I wanted to comment on the letter that Chugach put out regarding the HEA sale. I was so disappointed to see flat out lies in there. And one of them being the fact that Chugach offered us, the city of Seward, a seat on the board, and that's a flat out lie. I was the one who asked that question. Would we have a seat on the board? And they said, you're welcome to run. Whereas HEA created a whole new area over here and is going to give us a seat on that board from our area. And we get to vote on that person. And that person gets to represent us too within the HEA board. And Chugach flat out is lying about that letter. And pretty disappointed with them. Basically, as far as I'm concerned, they're just sore losers. They lost the opportunity to purchase, and now they're crying. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilmember Calhoun.
Yeah, some great presentations tonight. As we know, the small business development is doing a great job. They've helped a lot of people, and that's always a positive thing to have that ability here. The Chamber's also doing a good job promoting Seward, and so combining those two together makes for a good team down there. So I think that's a very positive thing. The trails is interesting to see that, how that develops. I know especially in the wintertime, a lot of the snow machiners might like it. If you go to some other states in the lower 48, they've got snow machine trails all over the place in the wintertime. It's almost like a highway. So as we get closer, not that we'll be that way, but it's nice to have that recreation possibility coming forward. I think you guys did a great job in DC. All the reports we've gotten sound very positive. And it looks like our legislative group back there is really working hard for us. Our lobbyists are working hard for us. And it looks like a lot of good things coming. So keep up the good work on that, including the Honorable John, Vice Mayor. I want to echo what Randy said a little bit about some of the information that's out there. You know, we're not always going to agree on everything. And I think that everybody's had a lot of opportunity to come to us, to come to HEA, to come to their meetings, their town halls, to get all of their questions answered, good or bad. My experience with the contingent from HEA is that they have fielded every question, no matter whether they thought it was a positive or negative question. Any question anybody's had, they have answered those questions. And I think I'll speak for myself. People can ask me anything. I've had lots of conversations with folks that didn't agree with the decisions that were being made, but once they can understand more about why those decisions were made, a lot of people are starting to see the positive benefit if this goes, goes in the way of having the sale approved. And we'll work on that. So please just get your information. Not everything on social media is always true. I know it's hard to believe, but go to the sources and we'll give you all the information that we have. So everybody just be safe. Summer's coming.
Thank you. Councilmember Demas.
Yeah, I want to echo most everything that everybody else said, but again, with the SBDC position, I think it's so important in Seward especially to have a position like that, because I think that there's a lot of opportunity for small business still, and a lot of people have great ideas but just need that little bit of direction. So I just really think that's a great position for us to support. I also wanted to touch on the HEA sale, remind everyone May 2nd is the vote. You know, there's just been so much information going around, and there's a lot of accessible ways to get the facts, and you can still do that this week if you do want to get the facts. Personally, I believe that this is an opportunity that is not going to come along for a very long time, and I think everything is aligning perfectly, and I truly believe after all of the presentations and conversations and questions and answers and you know, debates through all of this, that this is the right decision for Seward. So I really believe that, you know, this is an offer that is very accommodating to us, and I'm not sure we will get it again. So I hope everybody at least goes out to vote. And I also wanted to thank Claire from Planning and Zoning. She's always so well-spoken and gives us such great reports, and I believe that she runs really efficient, productive meetings, and I'm really thankful for her leadership in that role. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Honorable Vice Mayor Osenga.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I would just like to congratulate Kellyanne on such a stellar first year, or however long she's been doing it. Just an awesome job on her part. I think that's awesome. So good job, Kellyanne. Again, please get the information you need to make an educated decision when it's time to vote on our sale, our utility sale on May 2nd. There is a lot of information out of there. There's a lot of good information. There's a lot of bad information. Just please choose wisely when you're trying to get information from where you're getting, from what source you're obtaining that information. You've been hearing a lot of the honorable tonight. I was going to not address this, but I'm going to address it now. So I would like to first say that the trip to DC, which is what this is about, I think went really super well. I don't think we had a negative meeting anywhere. Any of them, they were all positive. They were all happy with things that we were attempting to do and things that we'd have accomplished already. And everybody seemed to be ready to jump in and say, all right, let's see if we can't get something done. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do that we're halfway through, and there's things that we need to get finished, and it's going to require more funding or more help from other agencies. And I think that was probably the best part about this trip, was that no one sat there and said, well, I don't understand, or I don't know, or I don't get this, or no. Everything was pretty much positive. I think Sebastian O'Kelly and Genevieve Cowan did an awesome job of facilitating our trip. I will tell you that those two, and of course our city manager Bauer and our harbor master Regis were the ones that carried the load. The reason why I was going to address honorable tonight is because it was in the title on the paperwork, and it made me cringe when I read it. And it turned out that Sebastian pulled me aside at the very first meeting, before the meeting, and he said, you know, you're the figurehead. And that makes you the honorable, so all you have to do is introduce and start the meeting. And I'm like going, no, I don't want to do that. But I apparently have to, so I did. And like I said, it was everyone else that really did all the footwork. I was just kind of a figurehead, so to speak. But it was an awesome thing. I think a lot of good information came from that, and I think that a lot of things are coming for Seward. I think we have a really good future, so thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, Councilmember Calhoun.
Can I mention a couple more things real quick?
You were going to get a
They're
chance.
easy.
Go ahead.
You will get to. I apologize, I forgot two things. One, to congratulate Norm Regis with the resolution that we passed tonight, appointing him as the acting city manager. I guess it's congratulations, Norm. But also, May 2nd, there is something else on the ballot to vote for, and that is to approve a change to our charter that would allow a city manager to live outside the city limits in a 10-mile radius from point zero there. So it's not just the HEA sale, which is extremely important, but it's also a change to our charter that would give us more opportunities to look at more candidates for the city manager position now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's all been said, but I really appreciate that. The addition, I was going to mention that other proposition too, because that is a very important thing to vote on. And I thank you, council members who spoke out about the untruths that are out there. And I spent both of the nights down at the Gateway speaking to people for a couple hours, 2.5 hours each, and answered lots of questions. And I think when you hear from someone one-on-one, generally people sort of understand, and when sometimes you read things on Facebook, maybe you shouldn't take too much of that to account, I don't know. But it is important to get out and vote. I would really like to see a good, healthy vote, and you can always still vote early. I did a thing last week with several department heads and the assistant city manager. We met with some Navy people and some civilians related to the Navy people and PR people and stuff. And they came to talk to us a bit about Northern Edge, which every 2 years happens. And, you know, a few years ago it kind of was sprung on us and it was a little scary and controversial. And all those scary, controversial things have been pretty well fixed. And we probably won't notice anything in it when it comes, except maybe some really classy airplanes flying over occasionally, you know, and maybe a ship coming in, maybe. But that was a neat opportunity, and they did get to go and do the simulator at Avtech. I suggested that to the assistant harbor master, and he made that happen. So that was really fun. I'm glad I got to do that. I want to remind people, one of the things I like the best about spring is the citywide cleanup, where you get the yellow bags and you go out and you clean up trash. For some reason, it's a thing. And that's May 6th, so stay tuned to that. Usually nowadays, you get the bags here. I think they have the bike thing, and I'm getting another note I'm supposed to talk about. Yes. And I want to welcome and thank Norm Regis for stepping up to act as the city manager, and also to welcome, this was a sleeper within the consent agenda, but Laura Erickson has stepped up to be on historic preservation. And I think that she will be an asset to that. I will, because I can't quite read his writing, I will ask Council Member Calhoun before I finish to announce this, okay? No, he can't.
Also on May 2nd through the 5th, there will be a naval, like a missile destroyer is coming into town. It's got about 300 personnel on it. It'll be here for 3 days, 3 to 4 days. And I'm sorry if we can ask the harbor master, what was the name of that ship?
Oh, I thought maybe that was on there, and that's what I couldn't read. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was the, gosh, right now you got me thinking of the Champlain.
Lake Champlain?
Lake Champlain. And then there's several ones. The older ones was, an aircraft carrier was decommissioned, but they renamed several vessels. So this was built in, I believe it was 93, I think it was. So.
They're just going to be here, just to be here?
300 sailers. And
right. Yeah, that's good. That's exciting. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. And I think that was, actually, I'm looking here, aside from the cleanup, I think that's about all I have, except get out to vote. So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:03.